LinkedIn is pretty great at a lot of things, like helping you tap into the latest trends and insights in your field. We cannot stop your coworker from tapping her pencil. LinkedIn can help you find new jobs that align with your career goals. We cannot help you find the source of that weird smell in the office fridge. Ew. And while we can't stop your coworkers from bringing their hobbies into the office, LinkedIn can help you bring your career to the next level. LinkedIn is the network that works for you.
Lamine Yamal steps into McDonald's, looks left, sees Pulisic, looks right, sees Jimenez. Gives a nod to Ronaldinho in the corner with a FIFA World Cup meal. Ronaldinho sees Son in the booth. Son finds Beckham going for extra Big Mac sauce. He's got Davies at the table just behind him. Davies going for his collectible cup. But oh! A steal by Henry, who pulls his own collectible cup. Collect one of 9 legendary cups with a FIFA World Cup meal.
At participating McDonald's for a limited time while supplies last. All rights reserved. 2026 McDonald's at FIFA World Cup 2026.
Are all batteries the same? That's like asking if all soccer players are the same. Take Messi, the most decorated player ever. Is there any other player who has achieved that? No, just him. Now take Duracell. Is there any other battery with power boost ingredients inside? No, just Duracell. Remember, goats only trust goats because they're built different. And Messi only trusts Duracell.
Welcome to a new era of baseball's great spectacle. The T-Mobile Home Run Derby, live on Netflix. The biggest sluggers in baseball put their talents to the test on All-Star Weekend. Raw power meets star power. Big swagger meets bigger slams. And you don't swing to make contact. You swing to make history. Watch the T-Mobile Home Run Derby live on Netflix, Monday, July 13th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Hey there, Duke fans. Episode 832 of the Duke Basketball Roundup, DBR podcast. Jason Evans here. And guess what? It's been a while, but I am joined by Donald Wine. First, it was my fault that I was missing podcasts. Then it was your fault that you were missing podcasts. Dude, it's been close to a month, I think, since the two of us were on here together.
Well, to be fair, we were on several episodes, but, we recorded them before
right, at
you
different
left
times,
for,
yes.
before you left for your cruise or I was in Seattle. But hi, everybody. Jason, good to see you. The funny thing is we haven't been on the Zoom where we can see each other in a month. That part I did miss.
Yes. Your smiling face to greet me on weekends is something that I have missed for a while. Hey, I want to start with this, Donald, and we're going to get to. There's a bunch of Duke news. We're going to get to Duke stuff. Mm-hmm. Duke in the NBA and the draft. We're going to get to some stuff about recruiting, some really interesting recruiting stuff. JBB, Boumtje Boumtje, is doing his thing over in Europe at the FIBA championships. We're going to be getting to all that. But before any of that, Donald, I want to hear a little bit. Give me a little flavor. You have been all over the country going to various World Cup games. Everyone knows you are one of the biggest, maybe the biggest fans of the U.S. men's national team. Talk a little bit about what your experience has been like the past couple of weeks.
I will, but first, I would be remiss if I did not start by thanking Scott for pitching in for both of us over the last 3 weeks or so. It's been great to have him on and great to hear his voice. I caught up with all the episodes that I was not on since I've been on the road, but really, really appreciate Scott for stepping in for me, at least over the past couple of episodes. So, Jason, to the World Cup, let's say I started my journey on June 8th. And since then, I've been in LA, Dallas, Vegas, Seattle, Vancouver, back to Seattle, back to LA, to DC for like 6 hours, to Philadelphia, and now back here in DC for like maybe 2 days. I was telling you before the recording. I don't know what day it is, what day of the week it is. I do know it's the 28th. I think about things of where I need to be 2 days from now, 3 days from now, but days of the week are mythical creatures for the next 3 weeks for me. I will be going back to the West Coast for the U.S. games, the U.S. game in Santa Clara. Should they win, they go to Seattle. I would follow the team there. Then it becomes a bit of a hiccup because if they made it to the quarterfinal, which would be a tremendous run, I would have to miss that because I have a family reunion in Dallas that weekend that I'm already slated to go to.
Oh, dude, if we're playing Spain in the quarterfinal, doesn't your family understand?
My family understands, and I would like to be with family at that time. That would be that's important.
I'm
with
you,
Jason.
I understand. I get you.
I'm also thinking in 5D here because if the unthinkable happened, if the U.S. were to make it to the semifinal, it would be in Dallas, so I wouldn't have to leave. And I would have a ticket to that game. So I have tickets to all the U.S. games the rest of the way. Those are the only tickets I have left. So as long as the U.S. keeps playing, your boy will have at least the ticket to the game, so I'll be able to watch it. But if they made it to the final, which is things that you can't even dream about, but if they did, I would be there. So I'm hoping this train rides as long as possible. It's been fun so far. It's been draining, taxing on the soul. I feel every day I just wake up and it's just like a buzz of just a fog about me of what I need to do, where I need to be, and who I need to be there with. So it's been great. The games are on right now. If you have not been watching the World Cup, start watching it because
you've
this
been
is the real
missing
part.
Something. You've been really missing
some great action, and the best is yet to come because it's now the knockout stage where it gets a little bit more tense. It's win and go home. It's like the NCAA tournament, but on steroids because you get to be the champions of the entire world as opposed to just the country.
Look, I will say something. When they first announced this expansion to 48 teams, when they said, 32 teams are making the knockout phase and stuff like that, I was like, this is watered down. I was not pleased. I am here to tell you it's working beautifully. Cape Verde is in the knockout stage.
Shout out Africa. Africa got 10 teams into the tournament, and nine of them made it to the knockout stage. That's an incredible thing. And if you have been watching soccer, you should know that African soccer has always been underestimated. Hopefully, this is a good sign that. And it's Jason, there's those teams, right? The Cabo Verdes that people thought were going to get absolutely destroyed, that have performed well. That is why this has become such a success story of being 48 teams. Is those teams that, the Uzbekistans, the Cabo Verdes, the DR Congos, the teams that have not been in the World Cup or haven't been in a very long time performing well. That's what makes it better. And some of these teams like Uruguay going home, right? That means anybody can be beat in this tournament. Yeah,
it's look, I've seen like Ivory Coast, DR Congo. I've watched some of these teams and the excitement, the thrill that they are having at making the knockout round. Look, they got some tough opponents.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, Cabo Verde is playing Argentina, but
it doesn't get easy in the knockout stage. But again, there's going to be a couple upsets. And you look at some of these games and you go, the way that some of these teams have been playing, some of these upsets are bound to happen. It's not just going to be chalk in this round of 32. After that, I mean, look, the same for the United States, right? You get past Bosnia and Herzegovina, you might have Belgium waiting for you. That's a tough team, right? But we just lost to in Atlanta.
Senegal's good. Hey, Senegal is not Belgium's not going to win that automatically. Yeah,
correct. And we've played Senegal 2 weeks before the start of the tournament and beat them, and it was a really tough game. All of these games are just going to get tougher. So yeah, you see a Spain, you go, oh well, that sucks. Hey, we've beaten Spain before in a major knockout tournament, and they were the number one team in the country at the time. Sounds familiar. So it's things can happen, but you got to put together your best performances, and hopefully the United States is ready.
Yeah. All right. So enough of the World Cup. Let's get to Duke basketball for just a moment, if we can. and let's start with the NBA draft, which we did a little bit during the week. Scott and I can't believe that we literally signed off. And
you signed off a pick before, like the pick before. I was like, I'm listening in my car, and I'm like yelling at my car, like, just stay on 30 more seconds. You'll get the pick. That's just cruel fate.
Yeah. But it gives us good content here for the weekend, Donald.
Yes.
Malik Brown taken by the San Antonio Spurs with the first pick after the DBR podcast signed off. Give me your. I know you didn't really get a chance to comment on Isaiah Evans that much, and obviously none of us have spoken about Malik Brown. Let's start with Malik. Give me your thoughts on. It's an interesting situation for him. The Spurs went big in the draft. They took Terrace Reed, they took Jaden Quaintance, and then they took Malik Brown. All three of those guys are big dudes. You think does Malik really find a role here? It's gonna be tough.
Well, first of all, look, I think it's terrific that he ended up going number 44. Remember, our over/under was 45.5, so we basically nailed it. Whereabout we thought he was going to go. I think the interesting thing of the entire second round is that short of, I think, the 41st pick, every other pick in the second round was traded. So it's interesting that
it's crazy.
I think it's interesting that he ends up on the Spurs, where I think this is the interesting thing about the Spurs is, sure, they got to the NBA Finals, they had a nice little run, and then they just kind of fell apart, it felt like, in the finals against the Knicks. And the Knicks had this, generational run. But the Spurs are a fun team, and they seem to be collecting guys who want to do dirty work. To surround Wemby with guys who can do the dirty work, who can get the rebounds, who can get in people's faces, who can do blocks and stuff, because it can't just be him, right? All 7'5" plus of him. It just can't be him doing all that in the defensive end. But what it also does is it feels like, for me, watching the finals, Wemby got tired down the stretch. And it wasn't because he was out of condition. It's because he had such the pressure of being the guy in every part of the basketball court that they need some of those guys to kind of say, hey, you don't have to block 17 shots every possession. We can get a couple of those. You don't need to get every single rebound. We can get that. That's where Malik Brown can fit in. Going up against a Terrace Reed or Jaden Quaintance for like roster spots that's going to be interesting. But it feels like the Spurs want to continue to get bigger because the rest of the NBA is as well. If you notice that their main competition in the West is the Thunder, and the Thunder got Ademara in the first round. So clearly they have Chet, they have Ademara, they have guys who are big, and they're basically saying like for like, let's get bigger as well so that we can kind of combat some of these teams that have a lot of big guys, especially the Knicks, right? The Knicks didn't have three huge guys, but they had capable enough guys that they could tire out Wemby. And once he was out of the game or once he was ineffective, that's when they start to fall apart. So I like that Malik Brown is in this situation, but I also have no doubt that he can carve out a role for himself on this team, even with the bulk of bigs that they do have down there.
Yeah, so the thing I noticed about the Spurs is, yes, Terrace Reed and Jaden Quaintance that they took in the first round, but both those guys figured to play the five. They figured to play functionally the same position as Victor Wembanyama. Now, I don't know if they maybe try to find a way to get those guys on the floor together. I mean, certainly Wemby is capable of playing a power forward kind of position. I think that both Quaintance and Reed are fives. They're just not. They don't have the foot speed. They're not going to go out and switch on to fours and threes and the such. Wemby actually can do that kind of thing. But if you look at the power forward position, which I think is more of what we think Malik Brown probably is in the NBA, even though he played a lot of five at Duke, he's a four, I think, in the NBA. You know, you're looking at Julian Champagny, however they pronounce. I've never been able to pronounce that. Yeah. Like Harrison Barnes, Kelly Olynyk, Carter Bryant, Keldon Johnson. That's not like a murderer's row. Some good players in there, no question about it. But I do think there's going to be a way for Malik to find a path. I suspect he's going to spend a fair bit of time in the G League his rookie year, and I think they're going to ask him to do more on offense. You know, let's see ways that you can be at least, you know, someone that teams can't ignore on offense. But I think the Spurs are going to find a role for him. I think there is a role for him, especially because he's such an elite specialist at the deflections, you know, at that defensive switching and the such, and using his length. Those things he does at such a high level, I think that the Spurs are going to be like, you know what, we can afford we can afford to, he's a luxury for us because he's such a defensive specialist who doesn't have a lot of offense, but we're the kind of team who can afford that luxury.
I also think, and this is more of a hunch based on the data that has already been collected, but this is set up to be one of the more volatile off seasons for the NBA in a very long time with regards to free agency, personnel movement, trades, and things like that. As I mentioned, the second round, almost every pick, save for one, was traded at least once. You have some of these big blockbuster trades that have already started to happen, from Giannis to LaMelo, Miles Bridges today, going out west to the Phoenix Suns, and Grayson Allen going the other way.
I was going to say the other side of that.
Hornets.
Really quick, so folks are aware. Yes, Bridges was traded to the Suns. Grayson Allen comes to the Charlotte Hornets. The Charlotte Hornets are now like Duke South.
Grayson, you got
and
Duke
Con
South,
Knippel and Sion
Mavericks.
James.
You got Duke Mavericks. Like, you have some of these things that are happening right now, and the Pistons have also been. My Pistons have been very active. I know the Wizards getting DeBonsa. Now they're talking about maybe being active in free agency with some of those second tier guys that they can sign kind of at a bargain. But
look, Jaylen Brown, there's still a good chance that Jaylen Brown gets moved. Yeah,
Jaylen Brown might get moved. And again, there's some other guys out there that have been thrown in the trades. Ja Morant, we kind of talked about that. But I think that this is where the Spurs are kind of accumulating pieces and draft picks and things like that, so that if there's a move to be made, they can figure out a way to stay getting better. Because if the West is going to continue to start moving these chips around to try and get towards them, they need to figure out how to stay one step ahead of them. Same with the Thunder. So I'm expecting this to be a very volatile trade, and I don't know what that means for Malik Brown specifically, but I do think that there's a way for him to carve out around the NBA. And I think, as you mentioned, is going to be starting with that offensive generation and offensive improvement. Once he can do that, the defense is going to speak for himself, and the glue part of him where he can just be the consummate teammate. He's going to fit into any roster that they put him on.
All right, let's move on to Isaiah Evans, Slim, who you didn't have a chance to chat about. Give me, we don't need to spend a lot of time here, but give me some thoughts on this.
No, I think I agree with you and Scott in the sense that, and I don't remember the timetable. I believe the LaMelo Ball trade happened after the draft. If that is in my mind correctly with the timeline. So I think that's going to be an interesting one because they still need some shooters. And yeah, sure, they signed Ayo Dosunmu to a large deal, but he has a little bit more size, right? And if he can improve on the defensive end, I think he's going to be a guy that they're going to really, really want, especially in that second unit. Is he going to challenge for a starting role? Probably not in year 1 or 2, but at least he'll have that opportunity to get some heavy minutes. And as we've seen, it sometimes for some of these NBA teams, it doesn't matter who starts, it matters who finishes. And if he's in that conversation for being in the game in the fourth quarter when they need points, that's where he can work himself up to. And I think he has a real good opportunity to do that. They're also going to, with LaMelo being involved now, this is a team that wants to get out and run, right? This is a team that's gone to the NBA conference or the Western Conference Finals the last 2 years. They want to get out and run a little bit more. They may be trying to get more size, but this is a team who wants to stretch defenses out. And with that, you have Ant, you have LaMelo. You need somebody who's going to be a guy off the bench who can shoot. That's where Slim can work his way in.
Yeah, I love it, and I'm excited for the opportunity for all these guys.
Absolutely,
the NBA is the ultimate, and there's no sure thing for anybody. But I feel like each one of these guys, we haven't really mentioned Cam. You recorded some comments. We had them on the last podcast. We don't need to get into that in heavy detail, but each of these guys, I think, is in a situation where he's going to have a chance. And that's all you ask for in the NBA. And we're going to begin to get a sense of sort of where they stand and what they're able to produce and such in just the next few days. The Summer League starts on July 3rd. The California Classic begins, and July 4th is the Salt Lake City Summer League. After that is Vegas. And the Vegas Summer League that starts July, that's the big one. But Malik Brown, the Spurs are playing in the California Classic, and so Malik Brown's going to be playing there starting July 3rd. The Grizzly, Cam Boozer's playing in the Salt Lake City games, and then Isaiah starts with Vegas. But I'm going to be very intrigued at seeing how. My bet is you won't see much of Cam. We'll talk about Summer League as it comes up more. But guys who are picked as high as Cam Boozer, like Cam will play in 1, maybe 2 games, and then they're gonna shut him down. I guarantee you.
I mean, if you remember, Cooper Flagg had the first game. They're like, he did all right. He said it was like his worst game ever. The next game he had 31 points. They're like, done. He is done.
Yeah.
There will be no more. But Jason, real quick, one last thing on Isaiah Evans, because I know you guys briefly discussed it when he got drafted. The question of whether or not some people were viewing it as a mistake. And I will just say this one thing. That people have always forgotten when it comes to guys making their decision about whether or not NBA is, you cannot put a value on a dream. His dream has always been to play in the NBA. Some people try to equate that, he could have stayed and got X amount of money. There's no price that you can put on being able to pursue your dream and having that opportunity, because you do not know what tomorrow will bring. So I'm really, really happy for him. I know he's probably disappointed that he fell out of the first round, but he's going to use that as motivation. I think we're going to see a great, great few years of Isaiah Evans in the NBA, and I can't wait to watch Showtime Slim on the next level, because I think that's where he belongs. His dream is being pursued now. He has made it to the NBA. Now he gets to live out that dream, and I, for one, am very, very happy for him to do that.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. On the other side, a little bit of recruiting news. Blue Devils reaching out to some guys in the class of 2028. And Boumtje Boumtje is playing. He's balling out over there in Europe in the FIBA under-17. I couldn't spit that out.
You said it in French.
The U-17, the FIBA under-17 World Cup. JBB will tell you how he's doing in just a moment. All right, we're back here on the DBR podcast, and we're going to start with the Team USA, the U.S. national team, playing at the FIBA Under-17 World Cup in Istanbul, a fine city, by the way, that I visited just a few weeks ago. I highly recommend it. If you're at all interested in checking out Istanbul, I got some recommendations for you. Go by the Grand Bazaar, go by the Spice Market. A lot of good shopping to be done. But I don't think JBB is doing any of that stuff. Boumtje Boumtje is leading Team USA. Let me talk about both their games a little bit, Donald, then I'll let you get in. So their first game, I'm not going to say it was super competitive, 31-point victory over France, but it was France is pretty good. They got a couple players who are they got a guy named Nathan Solomon who's really good. He had an incredible slam during that game. I watched a lot of this game. The U.S. sort of steadily pulled away from France. It should come as no surprise at all that Boumtje Boumtje was the starting power forward for the U.S. He ends the game with 12 points, pretty efficient, 5 of 8 shooting, including 2 of 3 from three-point range. It's kind of interesting, Donald. Both of his threes in this game were kind of scramble plays. The first one he was dribbling outside. He got doubled and he sort of lost the ball. His hand, he needs some work on his handle. Let me just put it that way. But he picked it up and kind of took a dribble between the two defenders. The shot clock was almost dead after the scramble play, and he just rose up from outside the three-point line and drained it. The other three-pointer came on a fast break where he tried a 360 dunk, and it hit off the rim. And so there was kind of a scramble play, and he picked it up back on the perimeter and drained a three-pointer again. So both of his three-pointers were like crazy
wild
plays.
Distracting everybody from what he really wanted to do.
Exactly. But man, his three-point shot just looks so good. It's so smooth, effortless. He gets it off quickly. He gets it off high. He can hit it off the dribble. As I mentioned, he hits it on the move. It's not like, Donald, when 7-footers take threes, usually it's a guy and he's sort of waiting there. He's camped out in the corner and a guy passes him the ball. It's almost like a set shot. That is not the way JBB takes his three-pointers. He looks like a guard or a wing the way he rises up on his threes. Now, in that first game, he had 5 rebounds. He had a couple assists. He had 3 turnovers, which I said was not ideal. But probably the best player in that first game was Beckham Black. I've mentioned him on this podcast before. He is a point guard in the class of 2027, considered the best point guard in the class of 2027. He has gotten an offer from John Shire. I am sure JBB is saying, hey, Beck, dude, come to Durham. We can play together next year. Not this coming fall, next fall, because that's where most of these guys are. But Beckham Black was just absolutely elite in this game from the outside. He hit 5 of 9 three-pointers. He had 23 points, 4 assists, 1 turnover. He got to his spots again and again. He seemed to control the game really nicely as a point guard. This kid is really, really good as a point guard. By the way, there was a gorgeous, an amazing play. I love this play in game one against France, where Joachim Boumtje had the ball on the wing, and Beckham Black made a backdoor cut, and JBB found him with like this one-handed pass. He was like dribbling, and he went straight from the dribble into this one-handed pass. It was a great pass from Boumtje to Beckham Black, and Black scored, very easily off the dunk. All right, so game two comes along. And this happens, Donald, this happens sometimes in these international competitions. It was the U.S. versus Japan. This was non-competitive. I'm sure, Japan's a rising nation among the basketball nations, but they are not a basketball power. The USA won, get ready for the score, 128-66.
That
Oh, my God. They almost doubled them up.
I will always say in basketball, in international basketball, that's the one real sport. Yeah, sure. Like in soccer, I always joke, like, yeah, I want to win by like 8 goals. It doesn't really happen. It's not our sport. Yeah. Basketball is our sport. And in international basketball, I don't care what team it is. They're like, oh, this France is a really good team. They're going to challenge us for the gold. I don't care. I want to win by 90, like every single time. So when someone says, oh, it was non-competitive, good. I want that to happen. I need everyone to understand that I want it always to be at that level in basketball.
Okay, but I want to say that I like to see JBB and these American players that I'm looking at get tested a little bit. This was not a test. So I just want to be clear about this.
We don't need tests here. Just give them the stats, baby.
So JBB had 16 points. He got the start again. He's going to start every game. He's clearly the best power forward on this team. He got 16 points on 7 of 8 shooting, 2 of 3 3-pointers. Yeah, I mean, if you're keeping track, he's now 4 of 6 on threes. He had 7 rebounds, and here's the number. Donald, he had 7 block shots. And I was like, when I saw that at first, I was like, wow, 7 block shots. And then I looked at the Japan team. They have no one, their center, their biggest player is 6'6". They just don't grow them very big in Japan. They just look, there are a couple of, JBB had a couple of these blocks where, like, frankly, the guy beat him. Like, dude beat him off the dribble, and JBB was like, it doesn't matter. I'm so much bigger than you that I'm blocking your shot. Even though you have gained advantageous position on me, I'm still going to take your shot and put it into the stands. It was kind of ridiculous. I'm just going to say it. I felt sorry for the Japanese players, but I mean, take advantage of what they give you, man. And he absolutely took advantage of them again and again. It's worth noting that my boy Beckham Black was again outstanding. He had 19 points on 7 of 11 shooting. Beckham Black had 10 assists in this game and hit 3 out of 5 3-pointers. So Beckham Black shooting a lot of threes, getting a ton of assists. JBB just, Japan had like 6'4", 6'5" guys on him. He had 16. He could have had 36 if he'd really wanted to, but they're spreading the wealth around. A lot of different guys getting to play and the such. I'm looking forward to, at some point, I think the USA is going to play Canada. That's the real match here, and that's going to be a really interesting game. But JBB looks really good. That's all I can say.
I love it, and I love the fact that over the past 2 summers we've kind of talked about this, where we've had 1 or 2 guys do these international teams, right? Whether it's the AmeriCup, whether it's the under 17 World Cup or something like that. We've had guys participate in a national team program. I think we got an email, Jason, about Jacob Theodosiou, who's on the 3x3 Canada team, and he's performing down there. That's great experience that guys are getting, because that is international competition. It's not just, sure, summer practice is great, but they're getting actual live reps, and that is how you get confidence. That's how you get better. That's how you kind of test yourself against your peers, especially of your age group. And I like that Boumtje Boumtje is getting this opportunity and excelling with it, because he's going to show up in Durham when he's done with this, a guy with such confidence. And, we've talked about how his confidence has grown since he committed to Duke, just where he was like, yeah, he's getting spot time here. And all of a sudden he just exploded in all of these different circuits that he's been playing on, where people are left saying, this guy is the real deal. We talked about him when he committed as a guy who's going to be basically saved for, a season from now. And just, he'll get some spot minutes, but he's not expected to contribute. Now we're looking at this guy and saying, is he going to get heavy minutes? Is he going to compete for a starting role? That is the confidence that has built in him over the past 3 months. And so I'm really, really enjoying seeing that confidence exuded on the international stage. He's going to get even more experience, and he's going to bring that to Durham where iron sharpens iron. And so I'm really enjoying the fact that he is the latest of our Duke guys to get this kind of experience, because we've seen how it has helped each of their games, and he's no exception.
Now, I mentioned that the under-17 team, JBB is technically a class of 2026 guy, even though, as we've said, he's coming to Duke a year early. Most of the team are 2027 guys, but there are a couple guys in the class of 2028, and one of them is AJ Williams, who's considered the number one player in the class of 2028. AJ Williams against Japan absolutely went off, had 25 points against Japan, hit 5 out of 6 3-pointers in that game. AJ Williams, special. He's a 6'7" wing forward, really special athlete, special player, incredibly skilled. He, like I said, the number one player in the class of 2028. We just got word today, I guess Jon Scheyer made a phone call over to Turkey and has officially offered a scholarship to AJ Williams. In addition to that, a guy that Duke fans have been hearing about for a while, a guy who's been connected to Duke for a while, is Colton Hiller. He is also in the class of 2028, considered like the number 2, number 3 guy in that class, another sort of wing forward type who just has tremendous skills to go with a lot of athleticism. And the more you watch Colton Hiller play, a lot of people just look at him, they kind of go, that dude's going, like people have been saying since he was a freshman, like that dude's going to Duke. He just looks like a Duke kind of player. Colton Hiller got his official offer from Jon Scheyer today as well, from what we've heard. So, look, these are guys who, they're not going to be making decisions for a year and a half, 2 years from now. But, Scheyer going ahead and letting them know, if you want a spot, that spot is available at Duke. And it's kind of interesting to me, Donald, and this is going to circle us into a different conversation, that Scheyer's made a couple offers in the class of 2027. We mentioned Beckham Black. Obviously, JBB, I guess, is technically, he's a 2027 guy who's coming in 2026. And of course, Cager Knipple, right. But we haven't heard a lot of other offers in the class of 2027 from Duke. And now John's made a couple offers in the class of 2028. The reason offers are now kind of an interesting sort of thing is that the 5-and-5 rule has passed. The NCAA has passed this rule that gives everybody an extra year of eligibility. And I think this is going to have a dramatic impact upon high school recruiting, especially next year. There are going to be 1,000 dudes probably. Yeah, somewhere probably around 1,000 guys who would have been done with college basketball who are instead going to get an extra year. And I think especially at the, high power conference kind of level, you're probably going to see a fair number of, guys who are successful at lower college levels, moving up. At the high college level, it's going to be even harder for freshmen to have an impact. And I suspect that what you're going to see is, unless you are elite, unless you're a top 30 or so high school player, that a school like Duke there's just no way you're going to be able to find a spot in the rotation or on the roster. You're going to have to be a heck of a player. So that's why it's interesting to me to see who Jon Scheyer's making these offers to. And look, with a guy like Beckham Black, who's a point guard, and you're like, well, but Duke could conceivably have, literally every guard on the roster right now could be back next year. It would. Darren Rippey, Caden Boozer, Caleb Foster will have another year. John Blackwell will have another year. All these guys play a lot, a good bit of point guard. And yet here's Jon Scheyer offering Beckham Black. It's just a really interesting situation to me regarding the 5-and-5 and the uncertainty about who's going to be playing that 5th year at Duke.
I think of course, this is a Duke podcast, so we're going to say this with Duke colored glasses on, but it feels like this is something that Duke was prepared for, and that in their approach to recruiting, they don't have to miss a beat, right? They're still going after guys who were at or near the top of the 2027 class. And they know, of course, Cager Knipple, who is fast rising up the ranks, but obviously has a little bit of a legacy here with his brother.
When they offered him, he was top 60, and now he's top 30, and he's going to keep on climbing. I think if his shooting continues the way it's been, I mean, like, Jesus, it's incredible.
But I also think that a lot of teams in the next couple of years, especially, are going to be kind of hamstrung and figuring out how to make this work if they didn't already have a structure in place for roster construction and just NIL and all of that stuff, because the NIL budget's only going to go up because guys are going to want to stay longer. And you have these questions of the NBA draft, right? Where next year, some of these guys who had exhausted eligibility, which, as you mentioned with Scott, kind of fill the back end of the first round, a little bit of the early second round, those guys now have another decision to make. And they could stay another year. They could go hit the portal and go to another school for a bigger payday. And it just makes it where, just like the NBA, there's still a finite amount of teams and a finite amount of spaces. Sure, you could have some team that has 20 guys on their roster, but ain't none of them gonna play, right? So you have this question of, are you going to have a big inflated roster where you kind of stash guys for later on and say, hey, we're not going to give you as much money now, but you're going to start next year knowing that the wheel of the transfer portal and everything else can still keep turning? Or are teams going to be like Duke, where they go, we're only keeping really 10, 11 guys, maybe a 12th, maybe a 13th if we need practice guys, but for like NIL purposes, we're really only considering 9 to 10 guys to give them the money that they think that they should be getting, right? And I think those are all different questions, but it feels like with recruiting, Duke still has this kind of formula, right? They're going to try and maintain as many of the guys as they currently can, knowing that some of the guys on this roster are not going to be here next year, whether it be because of the portal or because they go to the draft. They're going to try and go after the best recruits in high school and try to convince them to come to Duke, whether it's to sit or whether it's to compete for those minutes at the end of the game. Or, again, in some cases, compete to start. It's still going to be an option. Or are they going to go the transfer portal route and say, hey, some of these fifth-year guys, we want to get older, bigger. Go after the guys that have been around and say, hey, come get a Duke degree at FUCA or a grad school degree and play for us for a year. Those are all things that it feels like every day this coaching staff has to continually adapt to. And it feels like we're, at least in my mind, ahead of the curve on. So I don't have any issues with how they're approaching it right now. I think as a whole, you're not going to see a lot of commitments. I feel like early on, you're going to see it even more than ever, people pushing to the spring where they can see a full roster of a team and go, okay, I'm not being recruited over. They still have this spot open for me. They have 9 guys I'll be able to play, as opposed to, oh yeah, I committed in October, but now they have 15 guys on the roster and none of them want to leave. What's my options now? I think a lot of guys are going to continually wait to make those decisions so they can see how these rosters fill out.
Yeah, although I will say the one thing about that is that if you're a kid and you're like, I know I want to go to this school, committing to some extent can force the school to make different kind of decisions. If nothing else.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. So if nothing else, it stops them from recruiting other guys at your position. To some extent, we saw that with Jordan Smith Jr. and Darren Rippey. When Rippey committed, Duke began backing off of Jordan Smith Jr., even though, Jordan Smith was technically ranked ahead of Darren Rippey, although I don't know that he fits better. I think Rippey may fit better on what Duke's roster is for next year. But regardless of any of that stuff, there are reasons I still think to commit early. But you're right. Understanding what the roster is going to look like. I think for a lot of these guys, especially the guys that Duke is going after, guys who are top 10, top 5, in the 2028 guys, top 5 in the class. For the 2027 guys, Beckham Black's top 10. KJ Knippel is a specialized kind of situation. I think for the guys that Duke is going after, they are supremely confident that even if you bring other guys back, I'm going to have an impact on this roster. Mm-hmm. And I'm picking Duke because I want to pick a winning program where I'm going to compete for a national title and where every day in practice I'm going to be competing against the very, very best in the country. And as a result of that, I'm going to get better and I'm going to be better prepared for the NBA, even though I may not get as many minutes. I may not be featured in the same way as I might at some other program. I think those are the kind of guys that Duke's going after. And there's a compelling argument there that that's a good path. Certainly, looking at Duke's success in the draft and in the NBA, yeah, there are a lot of reasons to think that what John Shire's doing makes a lot of sense for these guys. So I don't know that you're going to see everybody waiting until spring.
It won't be everyone. You're right. And take, for example, like a Caleb Foster, when he committed so early and everyone's like, are you sure, man? He's like, no, Duke has always been where I want to go. and he hasn't wavered, right? Like throughout the times where there were opportunities for him to, see if the grass was greener, he said the grass in my mind is blue. It's Duke blue, and I'm going to stay here. So you have those kind of guys who are going to remain committed, no doubt. But there's definitely some guys who, just in the course of recruiting high school players over the last couple of years, we've seen some guys decide to wait, and then all of a sudden we go, hey, that money that we had in October really isn't here in April, or that space, that playing time that you might have thought you had in October isn't really present on this team in April. You got to make a different decision. It's all gambling at this point for a lot of these guys, both the players and the schools. The schools are probably gambling. Hey, if we hold off, they might still be wanting to come here in April. Some of these guys may commit in October so that I got my deal locked in, and now I don't have to worry about it. It's all things that everyone's going to have a different take on what the best route is. And really the best route is whatever you think is in your heart to do. Hopefully all these guys that you mentioned that have offered, I would love to see all of them at Duke. It may be a pipe dream to consider that, but wow, if we can get all those guys you mentioned, they are dynamite players and we'll be set for a while. So, it's very, very interesting how this is going to affect. But as I mentioned, I will remain confident that Duke is ahead of the curve when it comes to figuring all this out, so we don't have to.
All right, we've yammered on long enough about all this stuff. We'll be back here on the DBR podcast the next few days. Who knows what the news will bring? Certainly, we'll have more to hear about how Boumtje Boumtje is doing over there in Istanbul. We will have NBA Summer League happening. More recruiting news around the corner. The EYBL Peach Jam is coming up in just the next.
Peach Jam's always fun.
Yeah, Peach Jam's always. We'll be watching Cager there for sure, and other guys like that. Until then, he is Donald Wine. I am Jason Evans. The U.S. men's national team is about to play in the round of 32, and this is the Duke Band playing us out and taking us home. Cool,
sweet. So I head out on Tuesday. To
games on Wednesday, yeah.
Games on Wednesday. If we win, I will stay on the West Coast at least for one more game before coming home. If we lose, I will probably come home at some point before the weekend. The problem with me coming home is the 4th of July in DC is the worst time to travel to DC. Everything is inflated, and on top of that, because it's 250, everything is inflated. So we'll see how I make it home, but hopefully I don't have to worry about that. Because
you haven't been down to the mall to see the U.S. Fair, whatever the hell that thing is.
I mean, I've been at home. I've been in this bed a grand total of like 8 hours over the past 2 days. But the funny thing is, Jason, is they've canceled it the last 2 days because of inclement weather. It's not raining. Yesterday when they canceled it, it didn't rain here. It rained in Philly, but it didn't rain here. They're canceling because ain't nobody showing up. So
yeah,
it is.
I've seen some of the videos. Mm-hmm. It was funny. I saw there was a video on Fox News where the headline or the announcer was like, "There are thousands of people here," and you look at the video, and you're like, "There's like maybe 24 people there, dude."
24? There was 24 like little exhibits up, and like not one. As like someone was like, "There's more exhibits standing than there are people looking at them." So okay. It's for like 2 more weeks. So yeah.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
All right, man. Yep. Bye.
God, that was so weird. I literally could not say it.
You went straight to League.